Welcome back, dear YouTube viewers, another installment of Card Duels, and thank you very much for being here. And we keep looking for the worst cards in the game. Please help me to select what are those awful cards that could cause you to lose the game if you include them in your deck. So today we are going to be looking at the final 4 cards that enter the classification match. So first we are going to be looking at, oh, what's this? It's the Coral Merfolk. It's a 2-1 for just 2 mana. It's a creature and, well, a vanilla 2-1 that has no special abilities whatsoever. And I have to say that there's a very closely related card in the game called Curio. It's also a 2-1 for the same mana cost, it's all same stats, the only name is different. So if you want to fill your deck with 2-1s, those guys are going to be the ones for you. So what is good about this card? Because of course we have to give them a chance to fight for the prize. So it could cause a surprise or pity factor. So if you are playing with these cards, so your opponent is going to be very surprised and probably it's going to let you win the game, because it's going to look at your hand and say, oh boy, this player is has a terrible deck, and then he lets you win. Then since they have only 1 life point toughness, they are easy to send to the graveyard, and that's good for some cards such as the Graveblade Marauder, Kindling Stranger, and all the Delirium cards. So those are good. Also the Coral Merfolk has odd synergy because the tribe Merfolk, well, who knows, what is the Merfolk tribe? Is it powerful? Well, in the Magic Duels, no, it's not, because there's no synergy with the Merfolks. So if more expansions were coming, maybe someday Merfolk will be shining with glory and power, but that's not going to happen here. The same goes for the Vedalken. Therefore, well, you can build a Merfolk or Vedalken deck, but I don't think it's going to be very strong, but certainly it's going to take the opponent by surprise. Then the cards are pretty simple. That means that maybe you can look at that as an advantage. You play them and that's it, instead of trying to do some complicated calculations with other cards that are somewhat more intricate for the same cost and same stats. These all are alternatives that are more difficult to use. So if you don't want to think, then go for the easiest vanilla versions of the cards. And also, finally, they act as decoy. If you suspect the opponent is holding some important removal and you want to force the opponent to spend the removal on these cards before you play your better cards, then they are pretty good in that aspect. Also, since maybe are going to be ignored most of the time, perhaps they end up doing a decent amount of damage. Well, can happen. So let's see who are these. We are going to count this couple as just 1 card. Let's see what is the opponent today. Here they are going to be facing. Yeah, finally, you know this one was bound to happen. It's the Morkrut Necropod. It's a 6 mana with black. It's a 7/7 Slug Horror. It has menace, and whenever Morkrut Necropod attacks or blocks, you have to sacrifice another creature or land. So pros, it's massive. It's a 7/7. It has menace, so it's very hard to block for the opponent. So because it makes it possible to sacrifice another creature that you control, it can be used to get rid of some liabilities that you might find, such for instance Priest of the Blood Rite. It's going to be dealing 2 damage during every upkeep to you, so you can sacrifice this guy. Also, the Gitrot monster forces you to sacrifice lands. And the Visions of Brutality, the creature enchanted, is going to be dealing damage to you. But perhaps someone tries to use Tainted Remedy deck with Visions of Brutality on it, and that will be very weird deck, but can happen. And also, of course, it runs along with the sacrifice synergies, because, well, there are many ways to employ the sacrifice. For instance, Gabony Unhallowed, that places a +1/+1 counter when you kill one of your creatures, the Gutroid monster itself, because it draws you a card if you sacrifice a land, and the Smoldering Abomination also helps you drawing more cards, and so on and so on. For instance, Act of Treasons and lots of whatnots, thanks to the Morkrut Necropod, but you have to attack or block with it to sacrifice. And I forgot to add here, but I hope you don't mind, but this is a horror creature, so there's a little bit of synergy with Thing in the Ice that is not going to bounce the Morkrut Necropod when it transforms. So which one of the previous two is the worst? Which one you wouldn't include in your deck? Let's see what are our next contender. Who is her? Is the Hagra Sharpshooter. It's a 3-mana 2/2 creature, human, assassin, and ally. And by paying 5 mana, including 1 black, a target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. So it's useful to shrink targets without doing damage. And then it's going to enable, for instance, the activation of other spells such as Rip Soul that destroy target creature with power 3 or less, so you can maybe shrink a 4 power creature, and then it's going to be a valid target for Rip Soul. And also you can maybe use Hagra Sharpshooter to save one of your creatures from Dusk. Dusk destroys all creatures with power 3 or greater. Maybe you want to save one of your creatures by shrinking yourself, and then you cast Dusk. Just for 9 mana, you get to save your 3 power creature. And also it's a human and ally. Both tribes are interesting to have. The humans are powerful themselves, with lots of cards that enhance the humans, and also the ally. But if you're running ally with black, well, maybe you're not going to be doing both. I don't know. Can you afford 5 mana in the ally deck to do -1? Good question. Hagra Sharpshooter is going to be battling... What? Have you ever played this card? The Rabbit Bloodsucker. It's a 5 mana creature, 3/2 vampire with flying, and when Rabbit Bloodsucker enters the battlefield, each player loses 2 life. So it's a 3/2, flies, it's a vampire. The vampires are strong, so just to give them the power that they needed, here comes Rabbit Bloodsucker, because otherwise the vampires will never be strong enough to beat anyone. And so we have lots of synergies to enhance the vampires. For instance, the Indulgent Aristocrat can place +1/+1 counters on vampires. Olivia's Bloodsworn can give haste to other vampires, and so on. There are many other cards that can benefit from the vampire tribe. And losing life is not damage. That means that fog can't prevent the damage. On other damage prevention effects doesn't work, so you make sure that you take 2 life away from the opponents. And also it does not trigger Flameblade Angel, so because there are so many players using this guy and you are often scared of this guy dealing damage to you, then you can play the Rabbit Bloodsucker and be on the safe side, because Flameblade Angel is not going to bother. And there are a few self-injury combos that you can try by taking some benefit by losing life. For instance, the Gonti's Machinations is going to provide you with some energy when you lose life the first time in each turn. Maybe you want to trigger Exquisite Archangel ability if you are about to lose. Maybe you lose 2 life on purpose, so the Exquisite Archangel triggers and then you have your starting life total again. Or maybe if you already have the Gideon's emblem, you won't lose even despite having negative life. Maybe that's something. And finally, something that could is your opponent has a Sorin full of loyalty counters. It's about to use -9 to put a number of 1/1 Black Vampires Knights creature tokens with lifelink onto the battlefield equal to the highest life total among all players. Then if you drop Rabbit Bloodsucker before that happens, then there are 2 less vampire tokens that are going to show up, and that could be relevant sometime. So good luck with that. So those are the contenders for today. Please vote for which one of these do you think is worst, and which one do you think that if you include it in your deck it's going to make you lose the game. And this is going to close up the classification matches. So here is the current state of our pseudo tournament to decide which one is the worst card. Next time we're going to choose which between the enchantments and sorceries, which one are the worst of them, and make them face each other. And then among the creatures we are going to find the worst creature of the game, and finally in the last stage of this series we choose the worst card. But beware, because so far I think that YouTube is having some issues, because as today there are so low votes already counted that I think that YouTube is having issues and the millions of voters are not being able to participate. That's the only reasonable explanation for that situation. And so be careful when you are voting, make sure that you click properly. And if you maybe I missed some card that you think should be in this list, so please drop your comment below, and well, we'll be seeing each other next time. I hope you have enjoyed, and sayonara.